Hey y'all, and welcome to today's Effective Catholic vlog. My name is Tyler Rosser. Effective Catholic inspires, equips, and encourages faithful Catholics to become effective leaders. And you may be wondering why I started off this vlog with silence. It's because our theme today is silence. I'm really excited about it. And you also may be wondering why I took a delicious sip of my Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut medium roast coffee. It's because I'm going to compare silence a little bit later to coffee. Silence. So here we go. Two stories to start off with, both of which you're probably familiar with. So the first one, we're all familiar with that painting of George Washington on the front of the boat crossing the Delaware River the morning in between December 25th and December 26th. And where is he going? He's going to attack the Hessian troops who are celebrating Christmas, who are asleep, who are drunk, so on and so forth. George Washington knows that the best time to attack his enemy is when they are distracted. And so he does that with incredible results. So that's the first thing. Keep that in mind. The second scene is from the movie Lord of the Rings, or the book. And it's the scene when Frodo and Sam finally get into Mordor. And what do they see in between them and the mountain are just thousands of orcs camped out. And they realize this is going to be a tough journey across these plains to get into the mountain, to throw the ring into the fire, to destroy it if all these orcs are there. But Gimli and Legolas and Gandalf and Aragorn, they came up with a brilliant plan to distract the orcs, pull them out of Mordor to let Sam and Frodo get across the plains and finally destroy the ring. Of course, you have, Gollum there, but they finally destroyed the ring because of this distraction. The best time to attack your enemy is when they're distracted. The best time to attack your enemy is when they are distracted. And so I bring this up because I think we have a little bit of a conundrum on our hands today, because I think our enemy, Satan, likes to attack us when we are distracted. And specifically, what are we distracted by? iPhone, social media, Netflix, so on and so forth. It goes for all of us, but it also specifically affects, in particular, this younger generation of people after the millennials called Generation Z, or iGen. So I'm reading this book by Dr. Jean M. Twenge. It's called iGen, Why Today's Super Connected Kids Are Growing Up Less Rebellious, More Tolerant, Less Happy, and Completely Unprepared for Adulthood, and what that means for the rest of us. So I'm only 75 pages in, but I want to read you two paragraphs highlighting the amount of time this generation is distracted. And I don't mean to pick on this generation, but it seems to me and her research that this is an issue specifically that's affecting this younger generation. So, iGen high school seniors spent an average of 2.25 hours a day texting on their cell phones, about 2 hours a day on the internet, an hour and a half on electronic gaming, and about a half hour on video chat in the most recent survey. That totals to 6 hours a day with new media, and that's just during their leisure time. Wow, okay. So again, 6 hours a day with this new media. So iPhones, social media, Netflix, so on and so forth. Now here comes more of a personal anecdote. It's about a young lady named Athena. 13-year-old Athena, whom we met in the introduction, told me that she and her friends are often on their iPhones when they are at home. She says, I've seen my friends with their families. They don't talk to them, she says. They just say, okay, whatever, while they're on their phones. They don't pay attention to their family. Athena has spent a lot of time by herself lately. After her summer of Netflix, texting, and social media holed up in her room, my bed has like an imprint of my body, she says. As her summer activities illustrate, there is one activity that iGeners do more than their predecessors. They spend more leisure time alone. And what are they doing alone? They are distracted by certain things like Netflix, social media, so on and so forth. And so the best time to attack your enemy is when he or she is distracted. And so this is the strategy that I believe Satan has adopted for this generation and all of us, is to attack the enemy when they're distracted. He's very sly. He wants to distract us, and he also, like C.S. Lewis says in Screwtape Letters, wants us to think he doesn't exist. And so he's attacking while we are distracted. So what is the remedy to this? What is the counter to this? And I think it's something very simple, and it's simply silence. There it is again, that silence. And I want to read to you a quote by Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, about silence. And he says, "Dear brothers and sisters, let us not fear," I'm on my iPhone, by the way. "Dear brothers and sisters, let us not fear to create silence within and outside ourselves if we wish to be able not only to become aware of God's voice, but also to make out the voice of the person beside us, the voices of others." And so the remedy, the counter to these distractions is silence. Now, what I would say, and this is where the coffee comes in, I would say that silence is like coffee, is like the coffee of our spiritual lives. And two reasons for this. The first one is that whenever you do something and then you try something else, it's going to take some time in that transition to like that something else. And so if you enjoy coffee with creamer in it, like I used to, you're going to have to acquire a taste for black coffee. And I did, because my father-in-law drinks coffee black and I thought he was more manly than me. So here we are. I'm drinking it black, so cheers. So similarly, if you're used to Netflix, social media, so on and so forth, it may be hard at first to practice silence, to just sit in the presence and listen to God's voice and listen to the voices of others. But eventually you'll come to like it, and eventually you will acquire a taste for it if you sit in silence long enough. And the second thing, so the first idea why silence is like the coffee of our spiritual lives is because it's an acquired taste. You need to practice it in order to enjoy it, in order to desire it, in order to like it, just like coffee, black coffee specifically, is an acquired taste. The second reason silence is like coffee in our spiritual lives is because what does coffee do? It wakes us up. It makes us more aware of our surroundings, at least for a time. And that's what silence does too, is it gets away the distractions if you acquire the taste for it, if you practice it, and it wakes you up to everything else that's going on. God's voice and others' voices, and just resting in the presence of God. And I would argue that this is, along with the sacraments of the church, daily time spent in silent prayer, just resting in the presence of God, being aware of the battle that we're in with God's grace, is the remedy to these distractions that Satan is putting forward into us. So 2 questions. First question, how are you practicing silence on a daily basis? Is there a place in your room, that in your house that you go to, where you have 5, 10, 30, 1 hour of silence? Do you go to the adoration chapel? Do you sit in the church and just be? That's my first question, because that will help us acquire the taste for silence, and it'll also help us wake up to the battle that we're engaged in. And the second question is, if you do that, that's awesome. How are you helping others encounter silence? How are you helping others be silent? And it's probably going to come, as everything else does, by invitation and proposal. Instead of watching Netflix tonight, or for 10, 15 minutes before we watch Netflix, and why don't we watch Netflix maybe 1 show instead of 15? Do you want to go sit in the adoration chapel with me? Hey, I know you don't get a lot of silence at work. Let me take care of the kiddos this afternoon while you go up to the room and just rest for a couple minutes and encounter the Lord that way. Invitation and proposal. So, how much silence are you getting, and how much silence are you helping those in your sphere of influence getting as well? Okay, so the idea today is the enemy attacks us when we're distracted. The remedy for this distraction is silence. Silence is like the coffee of our spiritual lives, because you have to acquire a taste for it by practicing it, and also because it wakes us up to the battle we're engaged in. And how much silence do you have, and how much silence are you helping other people have as well? So this is the Effective Catholic Vlog. I hope you enjoyed it today. If you like what we are doing, subscribe. You will get daily emails in your inbox about vlogs, podcasts, and things of that nature. Speaking of distractions, the Memorial Tournament's on this weekend. Tigers playing in it. Jordan Spieth's playing well right now. Super excited about that. I hope you have a great weekend. Get some silence in, get some rest in, so that we can engage in this awesome battle with God's grace. God's already won the victory because Jesus died on the cross for our sins and rose to give us new life. But let's continue to engage so we can bring other people along with us. We can inspire, equip, and encourage faithful Catholics to become effective leaders, and in doing so, we can reclaim the world for Christ. God bless.